Thanks, guys. Thanks for the introduction, and sorry to say I had to go up first and follow on from George. Great speech and a great presenter for sure. So Sandvik's taken the opportunity to be a diamond sponsor here today, and we're very encouraged by this in the Northern Miner for putting on this event. Progressive mining is something that we ourselves have been fighting with internally and becoming a transformation company and an enabler for our partners and our customers to become more transformative in their businesses. So events like today and kind of these conversations in the community are building blocks to help create that level of comfort and trust and acceptance in the industry. So I'm just going to speak briefly about some of the innovations around concepts that we're looking at as we take our industry, as we become the wave and less like the oak tree, to George's speech, and try and ride with the developments in the industry. So speaking about this map here, I mean, this is really just a footprint of where Sandvik and our recent acquisition of Nutrax have really kind of created a market across the globe. So a lot of people have a perception that maybe just it's only in parts of Canada, it's only in parts of Australia and Africa, but really, as of today, the most digitally and technology advanced mine site is a mine in Mali, of all places. It's one of our big partners in Syama Mine in Resolute Gold Company. It just shows the level of connectivity. I mean, you can connect. I think Rick Howes from Dundee Precious Metals held a similar kind of speech a couple of years ago, and he essentially was able to connect to his mine in Bulgaria from here in downtown Toronto. And he challenged a lot of people in the industry and said, you know, I can do this from Bulgaria, a USSR Soviet mine. How come people in Timmins and Sudbury can't do the same thing? And it all kind of feeds into this theme. Again, George has kind of spoke to it very succinctly, but building trust and acceptance, and that comes with visibility. And how do you have visibility to your operations? It's not the days of the CEO and the mine managers coming back and saying, trust us, by the end of the quarter, we'll hit targets. Shareholders, stakeholders, be it environmental or social, they want to see visibility and transparency. And with data and with technology, these things give you that consistency, the sustainability, and that transparency. So this is a map we're really proud of. And just to speak to that, so automation is something I'm just going to speak to about a concept for the rest of my presentation, but just to give you an idea of some of the different sites we have connected. I tried really hard not to make this about our products, but yeah, we pay the big bucks, so we get to speak about what we want. So just quickly here, just a couple of slides on some of the performance parameters, because I mean, the technology itself, it's been off the shelf for the best part of 10 years, but and even longer, to be fair. But it's really grown as communication and technology has really developed in the wider communities, and it becomes enabled within our mining industry as we try to keep up or catch up with some of the more technology-driven industries. So this is the mine up at Marathon, Ontario. Probably most of the room will be familiar with it, but we've been running multi-truck fleet automation there for several years. And I mean, these are, again, pretty proud numbers that we can stand behind. I mean, I'll speak to the box at the end there. I mean, speaking about, you know, the perception and the stigma around people losing jobs in mining. I mean, the number at the end there, replacing 5 operators with the job of 1 operator, being able to operate multiple machines and multiple parts of the mining material flow. But what that doesn't say is that there was 3 or 4 other people's jobs added to this process that facilitates and enables it. So you're taking out 4 operators, but you might be adding 4 higher technology-based roles in the company. And the idea is you produce the same amount of material, or you increase your material, but you do it at a lower or more productive headcount. And that's really the whole thesis, or the whole idea behind automation, is really being more productive with your time and your people. And technology enables you to do that. So just another slide here around some of the different numbers. And I mean, we've had some different technology sessions with some of our key customers as well. And I mean, it gets to a certain level where it goes from operational to an investment thesis or an investment case of like, well, okay, the technology is off the shelf, but how does it apply to our mine? Our mine's unique. Our mine's got the hardest rock. Our mine's got the most challenging conditions. So it's a lot of work to work with our partners in establishing those business cases that they can make investments to their stakeholders and to their shareholders as an investment in the technology. Again, these are all numbers that we've had over the last kind of 5 to 10 years with some of our other partners here in Canada. So this is kind of more of the meat around what I want to speak to today. So I mean, here in Canada, I mean, we're not unique. I mean, George kind of gave it a 30,000-foot view of tying in industry challenges, but the challenges here I'm speaking about are at 3,000 feet or at 10,000 feet. As ore bodies get deeper and deeper, I mean, Kidd Creek's at 10,000 feet, I want to say now, about 3,000 meters vertical below surface, and with that creates unique challenges. I mean, how do you operate for 24 hours of the day? How do you transport people safely underground when there's a safety event? You know, all these kind of things under conventional mining practices and sensors are really starting to be challenged, and as being sustainable. How sustainable are those practices? So with technology, creates you opportunities to maintain those productivity and safety values that you can get at the upper part of the mine or the earlier mine life, and maintain those through an end of life or an extension of mine life. So yeah, these are just some of the depths that some of our partners are working at here in Ontario and across Canada. As you can see, I mean, they're getting pretty deep. So this is just a philosophical statement. I mean, the trade-off between depth and productivity. I mean, how many of your ore bodies, you know, in operations in Canada especially, extend to depth, or we don't know how far it goes? It's open at depth. It's probably the most broad statement I could say about most ore deposits in Canada. And the limitation is always, well, we need to sink a shaft or we need to slash out our upper ramp. And those kind of challenges create capital. And then the trade-off is, well, instead of having, you know, we can pretty comfortably get 40-minute cycle times in our trucks, but if we go to below 2,000 feet or we go below 10,000 feet, that becomes an hour and 20 minutes. So that means we need to have more trucks on the ramp. That means we have more ventilation. That means we need more operators, but we're doing it, it takes longer cycle time, so we have less utilization of the ore body. So with automation and digitalisation, getting the most hours or trying to continue those hours you would experience in the earlier parts of the mine life into the lower parts is really the challenge that we're looking to overcome with these technologies. So as I said, I mean, the increase in shift change time. So I mean, you go from, you know, typical blasting taking 30 to 45 minutes. By the time you do your safety shares, you ride the cage, I mean, you could be looking at 2 hours to 3 to 4 hours of dead time in between shifts that you're no longer being productive. So with automation and being able to operate equipment from surface, can you operate 1 truck, 2 trucks, 3 trucks ramping to surface, or run the shaft in between those shift changes and keep the ore feeding into your mill during those shift changes? And what's the value of that to you as a business and to you as a community? So yeah, some of the challenges. So with automation, that's the kind of challenge is, you know, how do you kind of keep that linear line with your productivity of your equipment without kind of impacting on your ventilation, your equipment demands, your capital demands as you go to increased depths. And that's the concept around autonomous haulage, is you can maintain those productivity parameters to a certain degree. As the deeper you go, you can still maintain them. And in Ontario, I mean, the most pertinent one, and the one you'll hear with Vale and Glencore as they go deeper at Sudbury in particular, is the ventilation requirements. I mean, we hear in Europe that, I mean, the legislations are moving faster than the diesel engine suppliers can move, and to the point there where they're almost becoming obsolete, that they can't keep up with legislation. So the timing is coming where the days of diesel in underground mining is probably going to be, as a social impact, is probably limited. And we're moving towards that as well with BEV equipment as much as anybody else. So just the kind of summary here, I mean, just to kind of wrap up, is just a kind of theoretical example of productivity, what those extra 1 to 2 trucks could look like as a productivity number at the end here. So, I mean, these are real cases. So we have 2 mines globally that are running trucks on a ramp during shift changes. So, I mean, if you've got a fleet of 3 40-ton trucks and doing 1 or 2 extra loads per shift change, I mean, that quickly works out to around 175,000 tons per year. And that number quickly adds up, kind of thing, if you can keep that fed to your mill. So that's really the crux of my conversation for you today, is just to kind of, as a concept, the technology around automation has been around for some time now, but the next step in the enabling of some of these deeper ore bodies here in North America is around getting that ore to surface, be it through a shaft or be it through the ramp. So I think that's about it for me. So just to wrap up here, as I said at the start, just a big thanks for Northern Miner for putting this on, and for Sandvik for supporting this. As I said, it's a communication piece, and it's really important. You can go I've been to several mines where 2 years ago they'd say, no, we don't need this, we don't need this. And then, every 6 months, every 3 months, you have that same conversation, and it's amazing how those conversations de-risk it from a perception point of view, and no longer technology is need to be seen as it's an unnecessary evil. It becomes a necessary evil to a necessary friend. So just thanks. Keep the conversation alive, guys, and let's keep talking about it. Thank you.